My story, it all started when I got a fake South African ID a very long time ago, and this led me into doing money rituals. I ended up having 11 trucks. My name is Alberto, my real name, but in South Africa, I became known as Mandla. I came from Mozambique. It was back in the year 2007. I really did not have anything. I remember that I just had a very small plastic bag that I had with clothes that I was going to wear until I would have gotten a job. I knew that one day I was going to become very rich in the land of South Africa. Just that when you are crossing the border illegally, like you can't have any other work that you can do apart from construction, working in the farm, or doing those jobs that are really low paying. I did not want to work, even when I was still in Mozambique. My father always had a problem with me because I always looked for a solution for me not to work, to have other people work for me. In the village, when I managed to acquire a cell phone, I would use other boys in the village. I would give them my phone, which had a snake game. I would give it to them so that they can play that game. And after they would have played the game, they would go and then they would work for me. So when I arrived in South Africa, I was still facing that problem because I was here. I did not have any capital to start a business and I had to work really hard. So I knew that in order for me to have a place where I would be working, where I won't be working really hard, I was supposed to get papers. For the first 2 years, I was doing odd jobs around Johannesburg. I was working in a car wash and I was helping other people to offload vegetables. I was working for a Pakistan. I wanted real money. It was too much hard work for me. And that Pakistan guy, he was always swearing at me. He was always saying that I am lazy. So I started to notice that when you are driving a truck, you are getting a lot of money. And I knew a couple of Mozambicans that were driving trucks. This was a very long time ago, before many of the local South Africans even wanted to drive trucks. There were a few South Africans that were working for big companies. But these small companies owned by the Indians, no one wanted to work there because they were having those old trucks that were very hard to drive. Most of them, they were broken. So I knew that truck drivers, they were making decent money. And I knew that the owners of those trucks, they were making a lot of money before there were scammers that steal the load, that run away with the load. The problem, is that when you are in a country, unlike most of the people believe, there are jobs that you can't really do when you do not have an ID. To work for big, big companies, you are supposed to have an ID. Without that, you are never going to get hired there. And you can't buy a car, you can't have a driver's license, you can't even open a business bank account. It was in the year 2009, I met a guy who has since passed away from Alex. He said that he was going to fix my life. As time went on, he introduced me to a South African woman who was from a poor background but staying in Soweto. We agreed on a price. She knew the deal and she was okay with it. I paid her 5,000 upfront in 2009. It was a lot of money, 5,000. Maybe I can say right now to someone that is poor, it's like you are giving them 25K. We then went to the Home Affairs to get into a marriage, but it was a marriage of people that had just met a couple of days before that, asked each other about the past, how many kids, your date of birth, so that when they ask you at the Home Affairs, you don't panic. When we thought that we knew each other, that was when we went to the Home Affairs to do the marriage of convenience. So she was my wife, but between me and her, it was just business. With that marriage, I was able to get a permanent resident status. Eventually, I got my SA ID, For the first time, that is when I started to feel like a human being. I went straight to a driving school. I got my code 14. I was already someone that knew how to drive trucks, because what I would do, I would go to a truck stop and pay a truck driver. He would teach me in the truck stop, this one, you have to press here, you start the truck like this, you fill up the air, and you do these checks, you reverse like this. So I already knew how to drive a truck. I already knew that kind of a work. So after I had gotten my code 14, I started to drive a cross-border truck. I was going to my country, Mozambique. Unlike my other Mozambican guys, I saved each and every money. If I would see even a beautiful prostitute, I would just choose to ignore. I would look at my money and say, my money is my wife. I was just living in a suburb, but in a one room, saving each and every money. By 2012, I had managed to save enough money. I bought it was my first second hand. I started with a tipper truck. I managed to secure, it was a subcontract. We were working at a mine. I was just pushing coal. I managed to get a side tipper. By that time in Mpumalanga, we were moving coal from mine to power station. That is when I started to see that South Africa, you can become rich even in one day. In Mpumalanga, if you are a good truck driver, you are moving, because I was driving my truck for myself. I never rested, Baba. I was driving 24/7. I was making money, serious cash. Within about 8 months, I was able to buy a secondary truck. Then the next 2 months, when I had two trucks, I was able to save and bought another one. But I was buying second-hand Scania trucks. And I eventually stopped driving. I hired drivers. I then started to do flatbed, and I was moving coal. I was moving grocery from Durban, Joburg, Nelspruit. By 2015, I was owning 11 trucks. I always loved Scania, and I had a couple of Volvos that I was doing cross-border with. We were even going to DRC, carrying heavy machinery with the Volvos. My bank account, it was beautiful. I was staying in a gated community, and I was thanking my ancestors, because they had led me into greatness in South Africa. A boy from Mozambique. I used to sleep on a cardboard box when I arrived in South Africa, but now I was the one that was owning all of this money. I had a house, but I forgot that when you have made money, as Black people, the only thing that we are trained to do is to bring each other down. And when you have money, does not matter you are South African or non-South African, never show people that you have money. Let people think that you are broke and poor. Because once you start to show off, does not matter where you come from, people will always find a way to drag you down. My biggest mistake was that I loved to show off. I blame this on my poverty. Growing up very poor, and I had my father dying when I was still struggling in South Africa. And that fact that you have your parent has passed away, you are unable to go for the burial. When I started to make money, I started showing off. Like, I wanted to prove a point. Even the car that I was driving, I wanted a car whereby if I was standing by the robot, everyone would be looking at me. And I had my name printed on that number plate of the car with my company name. Like, money, it can make you to go crazy. I was wearing expensive clothes. I would walk into a shop. I would spend 60K. I would be drinking expensive whiskey in the club, always telling people that I have so much money. Each and every truck is making so much for me every week. I wanted everyone to know that I had made it in life. During that time, I had a friend of mine, a South African guy. That is another thing that I want to warn you. If you have a source of income, don't let people to get into your source of income. This was a guy that I will call Temba. He was someone that was a truck driver. I had worked with him before. So he kept on coming to me asking for help. He did not want to continue being a driver. He wanted to get into the industry. So I became like a mentor. He became also a truck owner by my help because I gave him one of my truck and they said, go and work, but you are doing like rentals, monthly rentals, and he was driving that truck. So he was working, I was teaching him how to work, where to source the loads. And eventually he bought another truck. Because he was my friend, I would give him those grocery loads from Durban to Joburg, from Joburg to Durban, so that he can make quick cash. And there was one day when I was unable to pay him in time because one of my clients, I had taken a load and I had used that money thinking that I was going to get paid in time. So I had used Temba's money. And when I explained the situation, this guy, me and him, we started to fight. He said that I had scammed him, but I was the one that had been fighting for him. He was working under my company. It was just a delay in payment. So we had an argument, and I said, okay, it's fine. I stopped giving him loads. And when I did this, what I had forgotten is that when someone knows about your secrets, that person is the most dangerous person in the world. Does not matter, it is in love, it is at your workplace or wherever. Never let people know about your secrets that make you to go to bed not on a hungry stomach. Protect your source of income. He was my best friend. He was like a brother to me. So I told him, most South Africans, they did not know this. My South African workers, they had no idea that I was a Mozambican. But Temba knew my secrets. He knew that I was originally from Mozambique, and he knew exactly how I had gotten my ID, and he also had photocopies of my ID. The fact that we used to do loads. There were times when they wanted my photocopy. So he had everything and he knew about the fake marriage that I had in 2009. He decided that he was going to mess me up. That is how this guy, he had my business, he had my life. So he did a report about identity fraud. He provided that copy. That was the end. And this blow, it came to me. I will never forget. It was in October. It was just a bad day. I was supposed to travel from Joburg going to Mpumalanga, where I was supposed to have a meeting at this other mine because I needed an LOI at that mine. When I got into the car, the aircon, it was not even working and it was hot as hell. Then, when I was at this other garage, I tried to swipe, but the card declined. I then called the bank, and the bank they told me that my account was flagged. So I used cash, rushed to the mine, did whatever, and then I came back. My card is still declining. When I came back to Joburg, I rushed to the bank. That was when they told me that my ID had been frozen. I was supposed to approach the Home Affairs so that I can fix everything. And in the meantime, there was nothing that they could do because my bank account, they were locked instantly. I could not withdraw a single cent. I can't move money. I can't transact. When you go on the app, you can't transact. You can't do anything. And over 3 million was sitting in that account. I could not touch it. I had already gotten money from the other people. My trucks had been loaded already. They were on the road. This money, if it was cash, it was going to be better. I had trucks that were stuck. I was unable to send money to my drivers. I borrowed some money so that at least my trucks, they can go and they can offload. And I did not have anything. One of my truck that was trying to cross the border, it was impounded because it was from a company with a director with a frozen ID. Because of this, through my other drivers, I managed to get 3 of my Volvo trucks that were near the border and we snuck them into Mozambique before they were arrested as well. My other trucks gone. I ran away from my house. I was staying with a Mozambican friend. Everything, it was gone in a single day. I was staying in a gated community. And the next day, I am hiding in a shack. I returned back to Mozambique because that is where my Volvo trucks were. So I said, okay, fine, I made something in South Africa. Let me restart my business in my country. But I was wrong. Mozambique and South Africa, they are different. In South Africa, people think that there is corruption, but in our country, the corruption, it is different because they, if a white man comes to do mining in Mozambique, he will own the mine, he will own the trucks that bring the goods to South Africa. He will own everything. And even the Chinese, they own everything. If they are producing a product from the manufacturing plant to the supermarket, it belongs to the one person. So the road conditions, they were destroying the trucks. I was unable to get good work. I was unable to get contracts. Unlike in South Africa, you can go to a mine and negotiate for a contract. That side, you are dealing with politicians, you are dealing with Chinese. They can't give you a contract because already they are dealing with other politicians. So one of my truck, it had an engine failure. I had to start selling my trucks so that I can be able to sustain my life. The mistake that I did was that I did not go back to start driving my trucks. I kept on maintaining that kind of a lifestyle that I had in South Africa. I was making money here and there, buying those nice 4x4s, and I was staying in the suburbs. I was staying right next to a Portuguese guy, and it was very expensive, the rentals. If I had humbled myself to sleep in my truck whilst I was driving one of my truck, but because of that, I became totally broke. People, they laughed at me because they knew me. And then that was when I was desperate to return back to South Africa. In early 2016, there was a former businessman that I knew in Chimoyo. I went to him. When I went to him, I cried and I said, say, this is what has happened to me. I don't know how I am going to get outside of this mess. This man then promised me that he was going to assist me, but he was going to take me to a traditional healer. He told me that he was also in that same situation before he had gotten assistance. So he took me to the traditional healer where I was given a Sandawana. I was given a Sandawana and I agreed. I was told when I was at that shrine that this Sandawana, it was going to demand blood sacrifice each and every 6 months. If I fail to do that, it will take my mind, meaning that I'll start running mad. I agreed. The Sangoma then gave me a clay pot. This clay pot, it can get filled with 1 liter of water or blood. And I was told to keep it in a place where it was dark at all the times. And if I did not give this Tokoloshim, that would manifest, it would beat me because this Tokoloshi, it was the one that was going to bring me good luck, and it needs to drink human blood every 6 months. I returned to South Africa illegally. So in mid 2016, I was using a different name. I managed to get into South Africa, started staying in downtown Joburg, and slowly that Sandawana, it started to work for me. When I would be walking, I would just pick up money out of nowhere. And then I started to get contracts. I stopped doing trucks and I started doing construction with my Mozambican guys. So each and every 6 months, ever since 2016, this is what I did. The ritual that I perform is that I go to a crowded place, then I find a random stranger and I give them money. Do you know that in our culture, we always give each other money with the right hand and you accept with the right hand? But as for me, I give a person money with the left hand. In my heart, I would be saying some words so that this Tokoloshi can know that this is the animal that it is supposed to hunt. So I give that person the money, and then when I give that person the money with the left hand, the spirit of death will start to follow them. Then they will die in an accident or a violent attack within 48 hours. That blood, I would see it in the clay pot, and it is harvested by my topology, the Sandawana. So I have been living like this, and I usually go to different taxi ranks and I look for those people that are homeless. People just love to beg for money, or someone that is a stranded traveler. Maybe they've stolen his money in Joburg, and then they won't hesitate to accept cash from a stranger. Once they take the money, I am supposed to walk away without looking at them, because if I look at them, then it means that they are not going to die. Within 2 days, they are going to die. It does not matter how they die, they will just get sick for a day and that person is gone. When that person dies, I get money in my bedroom. It appears out of nowhere. So I'm here to talk about my last sacrifice. It still breaks my heart to this very day. I was in Joburg. I was approached by a colored guy. He came to me and he said, Sam, I have been going around dropping my CV and I am short. I need to return back. I can't tell you the location where he said that he stays. He said that he just wanted money so that he can at least buy something to eat, because he was caught. He did not have money that was enough to buy food and to catch a taxi. I said, okay, this one is a good target. I gave him only 40 rand. He did not even think that I am someone that is about to get him killed. This man, when I gave him the 40 rand, he said, thank you, boss. He went, he did what he did. I did not even check him. The next day, I saw him in a dream how he passed away. He got into a tavern and he got into a stupid argument with some thugs over a drink, and he was stabbed multiple times and he lost his life. And I saw him in a dream. When I woke up, I saw that there was fresh blood that was inside of that clay pot. So I found money as well when I returned back from bathing. It had been neatly placed by the Sandawana on top of my bed. Yes, I have money. I can live a nice life anyway where I want, but I do not want to continue doing this. I am thinking of returning back to my country in Mozambique, and I do not want to continue with these rituals. I do not know how else you can assist me, my brother. I know that I have written in Portuguese. I hope that you will be able to get someone to translate, because I'm not good in English. I am looking for a church that can assist me. I still want to have money with me so that when I return back to Mozambique, I'm not going to start from scratch, because if I were to start from scratch again, then it means that I would end up returning back to a Sangoma again. Your dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to us by one of our brother through our Facebook, and I asked one of our listener who can understand Portuguese, hoping that you were able to understand. She is also staying in Mozambique, but she is a Zimbabwean. She gave us this translation. Let us thank him for the translation. Our brother is saying that this is what he is going through. He needs help. He wants a church. He says that I am based in Jamestown. I need a church that can pray for me. But when they pray for me, I do not want this Sandawana to end up taking the money that it gave to me, because if that happens, I do not know how else I am going to survive back home in Mozambique. Let us try to speak with our dear brother in the comment section. I'll be back with another episode.